If you drive for Uber Eats, you were recently sent this document to review and accept. Do you know what you agreed to? Did you notice that Uber's changed the way that they determine your pay? Make sure to stick around to the end of the video so you're not blindsided when you swipe complete delivery. What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy, and today we're going to discuss Uber's new terms of service and break down what it means for you. Look, I'm not going to sit here and read the entire document. Hell, it's already popped up on your phone. If you wanted to read it, you already would have. I have read the document, and while most of it is perfectly acceptable, there are a couple of sections that are pretty mind-boggling. It used to be pretty simple to determine your base pay. Mine was $3 plus mileage when warranted. But now that pay transparency seems to be gone. Wade through the muddy waters of the new driver payment structure with me, and we'll see if it makes any sense for you. The entire amendment was about our pay, and that always gets my attention. Up until very recently, the minimum pay in my market of Bellingham, Washington was $3. If I received a $3 order, I would know that that was a no-tip offer going within a couple of miles of where I was when I received the offer. Knowing this made it very easy to look at an order, figure out the estimated amount of miles, and therefore estimate the customer tip. However, over the past couple of months, I've started noticing some strange things with Uber's base pay. Typically, I wait for my orders in the same location, as there's a few high-end restaurants very close together. This helps me weed out a lot of fast food, mall, and Walmart orders. The two screenshots you're about to see were taken on the same day. Both orders were picked up at the same restaurant and were both delivered to the same neighborhood. Like I mentioned before, I typically wait for my orders in the same location. Not only was I in the same location, I was in the exact same parking spot when I received both orders. I suppose a creature of habit, I guess. I want to be clear, both of these orders were received over a month ago, weeks before Uber sent out this new agreement. Order 1 was requested at 3:53 p.m., shortly before the dinner rush. It had a delivery distance of 2.2 miles, and I spent 13 minutes and 44 seconds on this order. Order number 2 was requested at 11:22 a.m., during the lunch rush. This one had a delivery distance of 2.3 miles, so it was going 0.1 miles further. I spent 20 minutes and 6 seconds on this order, almost 7 minutes longer than the first order. Yet, I was paid 93 cents less for the order that went further and took longer. Now, when I say paid less, I'm not talking about the tip. I'm talking about the base pay. How does that make any sense? Furthermore, the second order paid less than my market's minimum base pay. To me, it looks like Uber started sending out offers with the new base pay model before anybody even agreed to the new terms of service. Let us know in the comments if you saw any orders that paid less than they should have before this new agreement was sent out. A moment ago, I mentioned my market's base pay. If I'm interpreting this correctly, your base pay is no longer a flat rate plus mileage. Let's see what Uber has to say about this. The fare paid for by the delivery recipient, or in some circumstances by the delivery recipient plus funds from others for a delivery, includes amounts for the distance and/or time for each delivery that you complete, including expected wait time at pickup, expected travel time, and expected wait time at drop-off. The fare may also include fees based on certain trip attributes or marketplace factors, such as supply and demand. First of all, I'd like to say I find it infuriating that the terms of service are written in a way that only judges and lawyers can understand them, not the people who are actually agreeing to them. Why is transparency this hard to come by with gig companies? Wouldn't it make sense for them to write the changes in plain English? How about presenting some examples or graphics to instill a better understanding for drivers? In the long run, this would save them money with phone calls to support. Let's break this down the way I understand it. Your customers' fees will be calculated based on distance and/or time based on what Uber deems as the most efficient route. This route starts where you accept the order and ends at the customer's location. Now let's stop right here. So which is it? Is it distance, time, or both? And why does it vary? Furthermore, how do we know how we're being paid? Is one way compensating the driver more than the other? Does this mean that they're doing away with base pay as we've known it? This is a good opportunity to show you a couple more screenshots that I received in my market going back to October. Keep in mind, the minimum base pay was still $3 in my market when they sent me both of these offers. First order I'd like to show you is this order for Starbucks for $2.58. It's going 4.9 miles with an estimated time of 19 minutes. Sure, I can buy that. My order's at that specific Starbucks already 90% of the time, and it's a pretty quick, easy drive with very little traffic to the customer. But it's under $3. Well, what if that was a fluke or some weird app glitch? Now, take a look at this order from McDonald's for $1.95. It's going 2.8 miles and has an estimated time of 15 minutes. Now, this one I call bullshit. There's a higher likelihood of me being able to walk on water than that order taking less than 30 minutes. I usually wait no less than 10 minutes at that specific McDonald's. Furthermore, that drop-off is a major college area with frequently no parking for blocks. there's no way in hell that order will only take 15 minutes. So needless to say, I'm more than a little skeptical when Uber starts making estimates based on time. So why are we even talking about orders I received before the new agreement? To me, it sure looks like Uber was already rolling this out before anybody agreed to it. Since most of these orders are showing less than $3 in base pay, the only conclusion that I can draw is we're making less money on single orders now than we were before. So what about stacked orders? Doubles, or more recently triples. If the first part wasn't bad enough, wait until you try to figure out this fustercluck. Let's see what Uber has to say about stacked orders, or as they call it, multiple pickups and or drop-offs on a single trip.
In the event that you accept multiple delivery requests, for example, multiple pickups and or multiple drop-off locations on a single trip, you agree that a single fare will be inclusive for all deliveries.
So, the first thing that popped into my mind is, how is this single fare with multiple stops calculated? To me, it sounds like anything past the first order and we're delivering for tips only. So I decided to take a look at some order summaries post terms of service. And quite honestly, I can't seem to find any rhyme or reason for how our base pay is calculated now. Let's take a look at some examples. On this triple stack, the driver received a total base pay of $6.83. I find it interesting that customer 1 and 3 both contributed less than $1 in base pay for this driver. Now, what if customers 1 and 3 didn't tip? This driver would have been delivering practically for free. Meanwhile, customer 2 is spending $5.11. The driver's base pay was only $6.83, so customer 2 clearly paid most of the base pay. In our next example, customer 1 paid the driver $24.06 in base pay. What I find interesting about this, though, is Uber's cut was $22.72. So in this case, the driver got more in base pay than Uber did. Meanwhile, customer number 2 paid $3.15 towards the driver's base pay, and Uber got $6. That's almost twice as much as the driver received. Now, to the mathematicians who work at Uber, I'm sure this makes perfect sense. But me looking at it, doesn't seem that there's any rhyme or reason for this. It used to be fairly straightforward to understand Uber's pay model. For me, in my market, it was $3 and sometimes additional mileage on top of that. Now it's practically impossible to figure out, which makes me wonder if that's being done intentionally. Since the only two options are, yes, I agree, or don't drive for them, what can we do? Look closely at the pay you'll receive versus the miles. Yeah, there might be a hidden tip, but don't take a stacked order solely for the fact that it might have a hidden tip. If the base pay and the tip amount you can see doesn't seem reasonable to you, just decline the offer. The simplest way to protect ourselves from this kind of garbage is just to take a few minutes and read this shit. These new terms of service have greatly muddied the waters on what we can expect to see pay-wise. Before, we used to be able to count on base pay plus sometimes mileage depending on the distance. Now it's hard to figure out exactly what will be paid. Make yourself an informed driver and just take a moment and read this stuff. This new pay structure is far from understandable or transparent. Set your boundaries based on what you'll accept mileage-wise, know your markets, and accept your orders based on the information that you have readily available. Have you noticed more low-paying stacked orders recently? What are your thoughts on the new changes? Share them in the comments section below. If you haven't already, consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the RideShare Guy. If you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy this video where I talk about tip baiting and what you should do when it happens to you. I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy. Take care.